Sup everyone, and welcome to Ralph Reads, brought to you by TURN, the United Ronin Networks. My name is Ralph Anthony Garcia, also known as R4, the legal, the loyal, the regal, the royal, Ronin Ralph, your master of ceremonies. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tune in to TURN, the United Ronin Networks. We are Ronin. Today on Ralph Reads, I begin the final third of the novel, or the fifth, next to last episode of Be More Careful, written by the royal visionary Shannon Holmes. I dedicate this miniseries to the memory of my beloved, dear departed mother, Barbara Antonia Figueroa. Turn your headphones on, tune everything out, let the reading commence. Part 3, The Future. Chapter 18. It was a typical hot summer's day in Baltimore. The dog days of summer were in full swing. The sweltering heat and humidity turned row homes and apartments into saunas. Everybody and their mother was out on the stoops, porches, corners, and streets trying to catch a cool breeze. Tone and his cousin Mann were out collecting money from various workers and places around the city. Tone was real popular in Baltimore, even though he was from the Bronx. "Yo, Stu, you got that?" Tone yelled out the window of his customized black Mazda MPV. His minivan was equipped with DVD, video games, and 4 small color televisions in the dashboard and headrests. He had the loudest car stereo that money could buy, and his chrome 20-inch 5-star rims sparkled under the streetlights. As he came to a complete stop near a group of young men on the corner of North Avenue and Castle Street, heads turned and admired his car. Baltimore didn't need to see the New York license plate tag the way the car sat. You knew the nigga was from somewhere else. One of the guys standing in the group on the corner broke away from the pack and headed over to the MPV. It was Stu, his girlfriend's cousin. He was also a constant fuck-up. Over the years, he had beaten Tone or shortchanged him out of so much money and packages it wasn't even funny. "Yeah, how much you want, yo?" Stu asked playfully, yet in a serious tone, as he approached the minivan with a few vials of coke in hand, like he was serving a customer. Tone had anticipated Stu's prankish mood and countered it with a joke of his own. He tapped his cousin Mann on the leg, as if to say, "Watch this." As soon as Stu stuck his head out through the car window, he put a gun under his chin. "Yo, son, what the fuck I tell you about playing with me like that? Now where the fuck is my money at, motherfucker?" Tone said lowly through clenched teeth. Stunned, Stu looked directly in his eyes for a sign that would tell him Tone was playing. He saw none. "This nigga is having a bad day. He must be tired of my shit," thought Stu. "Tone, what the fuck is you doing? Why are you playing with that gun, yo? I swear to God, as soon as I finish knocking off this pack, you got that? I swear, yo, I ain't never gonna play with your money again. I'ma bring you straight paper," he continued on, real shook, with a barrel pressed against his chin. Tone was enjoying chumping Stu. This was one of the few times he was able to turn the tables on him. Unable to control his laughter any longer, Tone removed a water gun from underneath his chin and squirted him in the face. "Ah!" he burst out laughing, pointing his finger at Stu. Stu didn't like being put on the spot. However, knowing how much paper he was indebted to Tone for, he let that shit slide, taking his t-shirt to wipe the water off his face. "I knew that gun was fake, yo. I was just playing around with you. Tone, you ain't crazy enough to pull a gun out on me. I laugh and joke, nigga, but I don't play." "You don't pay neither, nigga," said Tone, still laughing, banging on the steering wheel. "Show you right, Stu. I always knew you was a pussy. This only proved it, son. I wish you could have seen your face. Now you talking that killer shit. Nigga, you ain't gonna kill shit or see nothing die." Tone continued mocking him in a girlish voice. "I swear to God, I'm gonna pay you this time. Please don't kill me." "Ha ha ha ha. I ain't say it like that, yo. Remember where you at, Tone. This is B-more, where you see more, nigga. You better be more careful. I could have got you slumped for that shit, yo. My peeps right down there, and you know they strapped. Ain't nothing happening to me on this block." "Whatever, nigga. You still sounded like a bitch." Tone really liked Stu because he was naturally funny, and anybody that made him laugh, he could tolerate no matter what the shortcomings were. Stu's weakness was he liked to hustle and get high, like oil and water. These two things don't mix. Most times getting high got the best of him, causing him to mess up money. Stu reached in his pockets and handed him a knot of money, which was a lot less than it appeared to be. It was $200 in singles. Tone quickly filed through the money, counting it up in his head. "What the fuck am I supposed to do with this?" he asked. "It's money, ain't it, yo? Give it to one of them strippers you fucking down at Eldorado's. Better yet, give it back. I'll show you what to do with it." Once again, Stu got over. The joke was really on Tone. Stu knew how much he hated singles. Tone looked at him like he was crazy, then pulled off, leaving Stu standing in the middle of the street. When he reached the next block, he hopped out of his car and handed out the singles to the first group of kids he saw. They would have ice pops and ice cream on him that day. In the passenger seat, Mann sat fuming, unamused at his cousin's handling of Stu. He felt Stu was taking advantage of them. Fed up, Mann decided to say something about it. "Yo, Tone, you can't be letting these Baltimore cats just walk over you like that. You giving New York niggas a bad name, word up," Mann said, real serious to his cousin. "Son, what do you want me to do, kill him? That's my fucking girl's cousin. Me and that kid been through mad shit together. He helped me get on my feet when I was down here by myself. Your son held me down. I must be doing something right. I'm getting money, ain't I?" asked Tone, trying to check his cousin back in his place. "That's all fine and dandy, motherfucker, but I ain't just talking about that kid, and I ain't just talking about money. It's the principle of this shit. What about all them other niggas you let slide? Yo, Tone, you gotta start busting your guns, son. These lame-ass niggas is starting to take you for a joke," said Mann, blowing the situation way out of proportion. "These cats is too slow to be getting over on you like that," he added. Compared to New York City, every other city and its residents seemed slow to Mann. To him, New York was the capital of the entire world. The center of his universe. It was all he knew. Tone shot a dirty look at Mann. He saw this day coming a long time ago. The day Mann would try to tell him how to handle his business. Mann was as geographical as they come. He represented New York and the Bronx 24 hours a day. He thought he was better than everybody in Baltimore just because he was from New York City. Tone had hoped in time he'd grow out of his pro-New York attitude, but Mann never did. So now it was time to check him. Yo, don't get it fucked up. There's real niggas and there's fake niggas everywhere. Don't judge a cat by where he's from, 'cause it ain't where you from, it's how you come. There are cats out here from New York I don't give a fuck about, and there are cats from B-more I got crazy love for, and they got love for me. You got thorough niggas out here like anywhere else. You better recognize everybody out here ain't lames or slow. I'm out here to get money, bottom line. I ain't out here on no rah-rah shit or New York versus B-more shit. Let them other niggas go to war over that geographical shit. I'm trying to get money, son. Word to my mother. Tone put Mann in his place and said what needed to be said. He was trying to get him to recognize the game before it was too late. There was a time he thought like his cousin, but over the years he wised up. He saw too many New Yorkers get killed sleeping on cats from B-more. No matter what Tone did, though, he couldn't escape the stigma of his birthplace. On the streets of B-more, he was called New York Tone. Though he didn't like it, he got used to it. It was better than being called by his real name, Anthony. Next to the money, what Tone liked so much about B-more was it reminded him so much of home. Its people, crowded streets, and live nightlife. It was just a smaller version of New York. A couple sections of Baltimore were referred to as Little New York or Baby New York in reference to all the gunplay action and drama that existed there. Another thing about Baltimore was its women. They were a fringe benefit, something that came along with the game. He loved them and they loved him. The only problem was he had a girlfriend. Sonja was short, dark-skinned, shapely and fine, half American, half Jamaican. Her and Tone were high school sweethearts. Shortly after graduating from Evander Childs High School in the Bronx, she decided to attend Morgan State University in Baltimore. Upon arriving at school, her cousin Stu pulled her coat to all the money to be made out there. She in turn told Tone, who had hopped on the next thing smoking down there. Had Tone not come to B-more to sell drugs, it's highly unlikely that their relationship would have survived. Actually, it was amazing they were still together the way he cheated. Even though he loved Sonja, he was having sex with so many females he thought he was Hercules. He wanted to knock all of them off. He was like a kid in a candy store with a pocket full of dough. He wanted to sample whatever caught his eye. On the strength of where he was from and all the money he was making, Tone found no shortage of sex partners. He certainly wasn't a bad-looking guy. Brown skin, tall, curly hair, and a chipped front tooth were his best physical attributes. Not to mention, his heavy New York accent was like an aphrodisiac to the ladies. Tone loved to frequent strip joints. His favorite was El Dorado's in downtown Baltimore. He had every stripper that worked there at least twice. After the club closed, he'd come back and pick one of them. Then it was off to the nearest hotel, all for a small fee, of course. The rates varied according to who you were. Tone, being the regular he was, got a discount. Most hustlers called this tricking, but not him. This was an investment in a sure-shot thing. The way he saw it, if you bought a broad a Happy Meal, then you was tricking too. A dumb one at that. you still might not get none. He, on the other hand, could expect the works since he paid for it. The best part was, when he was finished, he could get up and walk out the door and not say one word. In his mind, Tone tried to justify his cheating ways. He reasoned, if I could get what I needed at home, I wouldn't have to creep around. Sonja refused to perform oral sex on him. This was some mandatory shit for Tone.
Are you crazy? I'm not doing that. I don't want to.
Tone tried every trick in the book, but nothing worked. They'd been together for 4 years, and it was still the same old shit in the bedroom. Tone figured if she wasn't ready now, then she'd never be ready. In the middle of the night, Tina awoke to the sounds of muffled noises that escaped from under the bathroom door and down the hall. A light sleeper, she laid in bed wondering what the sounds could be. Silently creeping, she walked down the pitch-black hallway towards the bathroom. The bright light escaping from beneath the door was her guide. This must be Mimi, Tina thought as she inched closer, careful not to make any noise. She hadn't seen Mimi in weeks. Tina wanted to have a talk with her about her disappearing acts. Reaching the bathroom door, the noises grew louder. Tina stood at the door, listening and unsure of what to do next.
This isn't what I think. Please, Lord, don't let it be.
Her baby girl was getting high. On the other side of the door, Mimi was snorting heroin. Scoop after scoop, she shoveled it into her nostrils. Empty glassine bags of dope littered the floor. Mimi sat on the edge of the tub, too absorbed in her activities. She never heard her mother's sobs from the other side of the door. Bang, bang, bang. Tina beat on the door so loud and hard that it shook violently.
Mimi, open this door right now! Wait a minute!
Yelled Mimi. Startled, she almost dropped her dope.
I'm using the bathroom!
She said, stalling.
You open this door right now before I break it down. You ain't fooling nobody, Mimi. I know what you're doing in there.
Ignoring her mother, Mimi stuffed the rest of the dope in her bra. Then she grabbed all the loose baggies that laid around and flushed them down the toilet. Straightening up, she finally unlocked and opened the door, which her mother was pushing on to get in.
What the hell do you think you are doing?
Tina asked as she got all up in Mimi's face, examining it closely. Grabbing her daughter, Tina forcefully held Mimi's face inches from the bathroom mirror.
What's that?
Tina asked, demanding her daughter to answer. Looking closely at herself in the mirror, Mimi saw tiny traces of white powder around the rim of her nose.
Oh, it's nothing,
she answered.
Nothing, huh? You putting that junk up your nose? I guess that's baby powder, huh? I don't know what the devil has gotten into you. Why you fooling with that stuff? You look like death in the face.
For the first time in a long time, Mimi was forced to examine herself. The person she saw in the mirror wasn't a true reflection of herself. The person she saw staring back at her was one who carried many titles, from whore to gold digger, and now, junkie. The person in the mirror wasn't her. It was a tired-looking imposter.
Ma, I need help. I can't stop getting high,
she said as a tear rolled down her face. Tina released the hold she had on her daughter's face and embraced her. Tina couldn't have anything come in her house and hurt her more than to see her daughter getting high. When would it end? For Tina, she had lived the life of a hustler's wife all her life. It was a life she couldn't convince herself had been a waste. Now her hustling husband was nowhere to be found, unless she went looking where she didn't. Not to mention her son Timmy shot dead, senseless over money. His life was worth more than that money. Her other son in jail for the rest of his life. Tommy will spend it behind bars. Oh, there was nothing sadder than this moment for Tina. The tears that rolled down her daughter's cheek sparked tears in hers, still left from her son's, and tears she didn't even know she had for her daughter. If she could wipe out every drug on the market, she would. Admitting her drug problem to her mother was the first step for Mimi on the long road to recovery. Secretly, she entered a 90-day inpatient program in Bethesda, Maryland, called Second Genesis. Her mother's pastor arranged this from the church.
May I speak to Mimi?
The long-lost voice could be heard through the handset.
Netta?
Asked Tina, excitedly knowing the voice sounded familiar.
Hi, Miss Johnson. How's everything going?
Said Netta cheerfully.
Netta, I've been thinking about you. Where you been? You could have called, you know. I've been worried sick about you,
she said. It was true. Netta hadn't been in contact with anybody in quite some time. She had been too preoccupied with Black. Now that he was in prison, though, she was starting to reestablish her old ties.
I'm sorry, Miss Johnson, but I've been working. I didn't mean to call, but I've been busy. Most of the time, it's too late to call when I get off work. It's no excuse, I'm sorry. You know how time flies,
said Netta apologetically.
It's okay. I know how it is. I'm just glad to hear from you, baby. Where you working at?
She asked.
Maryland University Hospital. I do clerical work. How's little Timmy?
Netta asked.
He's doing good. He's getting so big. That boy is eating me out of house and home. He's asleep now, taking his nap. You know he loves you, right? Always points to your graduation picture,
said Tina.
Miss Johnson, is Mimi home?
Asked Netta.
No, baby. She's down south taking care of my sick mother. She'll be back soon,
she said, lying. And Tina was a churchgoer. She didn't like lies. It was against her religion. But for her daughter, Tina went against her God. Mimi begged for secrecy. So even though Tina didn't want to lie, she did it for Mimi's sake.
She is?
Asked Netta, surprised to hear that Mimi went down south. She wasn't a traveling type. She was one of those people who would never leave Baltimore. Born there, die there. Netta thought it must be serious for her to leave.
I hope your mom has a speedy recovery,
said Netta. Yeah, baby, she's doing better. Mimi should be home soon.
Well, will you tell her to call me?
Asked Netta.
Oh, baby, you know I will. She'll be so glad to hear from you.
The conversation ended like that. Netta didn't give it a second thought. She'd see Mimi when she got back. Mimi was the prettiest fiend in the rehab center, bar none. Surprisingly, there were just as many white people in rehab, if not more. But from the start of her rehabilitation efforts, she was doomed. She felt uncomfortable and out of place. She was surrounded by hardcore addicts and couldn't identify with those people at all. The dope fiends and crackheads in her group class told horror stories about how they went about getting their daily fix or hit. Mimi wasn't feeling the group or the class or none of it. In her mind, it never got that bad for her. The hardest thing for her to do was stand before the group and say,
Hi, my name is Mimi and I'm a recovering heroin addict.
She could barely get it out, and even when she did, it didn't sound right. Her drug counselor accused her of being in denial. In all actuality, she was in rehab for all the wrong reasons. Mimi wasn't there to rid herself of her dope habit. She was there because she got caught getting high, not because she wanted to stop. Mimi was there because she didn't want anyone else to find out just how badly she'd fallen off, as if she could undo the damage done to her reputation. Mimi was only there to salvage her image, what little of it was left. Her heart wasn't into recovery. The whole time she was there, she thought about getting high. By the time her 90-day rehabilitation period was over, nobody even knew she was gone. That was just the way she wanted it. Mimi had gained her weight back in all the right places and was looking better than ever. After her release, she hooked right back up with Netta and the Pound. With Black locked up down city jail, her and Netta were thick as thieves again. It was just like old times. As the years passed, Netta led and Mimi followed. The Pussy Pound was still in demand, and everybody was prospering. Running their game, they ran through and discarded hustlers like old clothes, Netta in the forefront and Mimi trailing a split second behind. Little did Netta and Mimi know that their past sins were just about to catch up with them. Chapter 19. On Monroe and Fayette Street, Tone sat inside Mann's new gold Lexus coupe, blasting his system as he waited for Mann to finish handling his business. The years had been good to both of them. They had a successful run in Baltimore, dealing drugs for 4 years without getting locked up. Their longevity was matched by few. During that time span, they'd seen a lot of New Yorkers come and go. Most of their friends and people they knew were either dead or indicted. Yet, more and more kept coming down to Baltimore, wave after wave. No one seemed to get the message that things weren't as sweet as they used to be. Cats were coming home from jail with an anti-New York attitude, and the murder rate was steadily rising. Things were hectic in the streets. Zoning out listening to rap music, Tone spotted a yellow Range Rover pull up. The bright color of the truck caught his eye. He watched as the truck parked a few cars in front of him. The driver door opened and a beautiful dark-skinned female stepped out of the truck and began unloading groceries. Snatching the keys out of the ignition, Tone walked over to assist her and run some game. "Excuse me, miss, with the slim waist and the pretty face. You need a hand with that, ma?" Tone politely asked as he undressed her with his eyes.
Damn, you scared me. It's not polite to creep up on people like that,
said Netta, caught off guard. "My bad, ma. I didn't mean to scare you. I seen you struggling with the bags, and being the gentleman I am, I figured I'd help you," Tone said, flashing her his megawatt smile that brought a grin to Netta's face.
"I could use a hand, New York,"
Netta replied, picking up his accent.
"Thanks,"
she added, handing him the last of the grocery bags before closing the trunk. Tone waited for Netta to secure her car, and together they walked toward her house, where the other bags sat on the steps. "Damn, ma, what you got in there? Them shits was heavy, word," said Tone, not realizing Netta had deliberately given him all the heavy bags to carry while she toted the light ones. "A strong nigga like you shouldn't have no problem carrying them bags," said Netta playfully. "Oh, I ain't got no problems. I'm just trying to figure out where your man is," he asked, trying to get some information on her status. Was she single or seeing somebody? Either way, it didn't matter. Tone just wanted to know so he'd know how to come at her.
I ain't got no man,
Netta stated, thinking about 4 years ago when the last man she had was black.
I'm high maintenance, and these niggas is low budget. They got champagne taste and beer money. You got to spend money on this. As you can see, I'm used to nice things.
Damn, Ma, what part of the game is that? You on some real extra shit, said Tone, knowing her kind. This broad ain't nothing but a gold digger. But he felt he could handle her. After all, he was from the Big Apple, and there wasn't no gold digger worse than one from New York.
The part of the game you wouldn't understand if your money ain't long, New York.
Netta shot back with a sexy attitude, putting her hand on her hip. Say word, laughed Tone.
Word, New York.
Man, look, my moms ain't named me no New York neither. Yo, every New Yorker out this piece is called New York. That's just where I'm from. My name is Tone. What's yours? He asked, making the introduction, liking her style.
So this must be New York Tone I've been hearing about. I'm Netta,
she answered with a smile. Check this out, Netta. What's up with me and you? Can a nigga take you out and get something to eat or something? What? Get to know you a little better, you know what I mean? He asked, hoping she said yes.
No. Doubt. We can do something tonight. I ain't got nothing planned.
As they conversed, Mimi showed up, followed by Mann. They were both introduced and talked to themselves as the other members of the Pussy Pound started pulling up in their various cars. Tone and Mann couldn't believe their eyes. All these chicks were drop-dead gorgeous. After watching the town parade of ghetto superstar starlets go by, Tone and Mann were ready to follow the pack on up in the crib. Yo, can we chill with y'all? Asked Mann.
Nah, it's a private club. Ladies only. We about to get blunted and kick it. You know, girly shit, yo.
Mann left it at that and continued to exchange numbers with Mimi as Netta and Tone did the same. So shit is on for the night. I'll be back around 8:30, but I'ma call before I come, said Tone.
Alright, see you tonight. Don't be late,
she replied as she went inside her house to join her clique. She never noticed the black truck parked on the corner of her block. She never noticed its driver. Black watched her as she disappeared behind the closed door. Locating Netta wasn't hard. Even after 4 years of imprisonment, she still lived in the same house and was still driving the same car he'd given her as an engagement present, the Yellow Range. He never thought she'd be driving the same whip. Obviously, she hadn't gotten wind of his release, or she would have been long gone. That's the very reason why Black insisted on no parties or celebrations. He wanted no one or nothing to announce his return to the streets. He wanted to keep it on a down low. He wanted to take Netta and Baltimore by storm. As it stood, only his lawyer and his family and the inmates back at the jail knew he had been released. He had to move quickly. The element of surprise as well as timing was on his side. The streets didn't know he was out, but they soon would. Running errands all day, Netta was unaware that she was being followed. Black had watched her every move. He followed her to the cleaner's, beauty parlor, and the supermarket. All over the city and everywhere she went, he was with her like a shadow. He watched and he waited for his opportunity to strike. Patiently, Black sat in his car on the corner of the block and waited for his chance. Every time he thought he had her alone, someone else would show up and spoil his plans. He wanted Netta in a secluded spot where they could be alone, just the two of them, but she kept going to public places where there were too many people around. Since he couldn't catch her how he wanted, Black decided to bide his time until the moment was right. He'd waited 4 years to have his moment, and he wanted it to be perfect. Reclining in her chair, Netta opened her eyes. She looked over at Mimi.
I hope she still ain't mad.
Netta figured she had been a little hard on Mimi earlier when they had argued about Kev trying to bid off her. She just wanted Mimi to play smart. It was really a small thing, but Mimi took it so personal. She thought Netta was purposely trying to disrespect her in front of the clique.
This ain't over,
Mimi promised herself. Just then, the phone rang, and Netta reached over the side of the chair arm and picked the cordless off the floor. It was Tone, making sure they were still on for the night. Instead of picking her up, though, he wanted to meet her at the restaurant instead. Claiming he had to handle some unexpected business, Netta agreed, preferring to drive her own car anyway. That way, if he started tripping, she'd be free to leave. As the sun set and the skyline grew orange and pink, Black began to grow impatient. He was ready to run up in Netta's house and kill all of them. Just as he was contemplating the thought, Netta and company began exiting the house. So this must be the pussy pound, he thought to himself. Black didn't recognize Petey, Rashida, or Fila, but he recognized Mimi. Black could never forget a face as pretty as hers, or the way she used to open her legs in front of him when Netta wasn't around. No, he certainly couldn't forget Miss Mimi. She still looks good. Mimi done got as thick as Netta. Look at her ass. Maybe I should have messed with her. She probably wouldn't have done me dirty like Netta did. As these thoughts popped in his head, they quickly disappeared. Fuck all them hoes, Black finally said, his true feelings having emerged. Going their separate ways, the pussy pound jumped into their individual cars and rolled out. Netta got in her truck and headed towards the restaurant. She was on her way to meet Tone downtown. This was the opportunity Black had been waiting for all day. He followed her for several blocks, hoping she'd come to a deserted intersection where he could make his move. At the light ahead, there was a 3-car accident, and police were redirecting the flow of traffic. Seeing this, Netta turned off on a side street, hoping to beat the traffic. Doing so, she played right into Black's hands. He took the same detour, following closely behind her. Black put the pedal to the metal. This was his golden opportunity. He had waited for 4 years, and he wasn't about to let her get away. Taking the side blocks downtown, Netta was unaware of the black GMC Jimmy that was behind her Range Rover. At the next corner, Black caught up to her and gently bumped her bumper. It wasn't enough to cause her injuries, just enough to cause her to want to check for damages.
What the fuck?
Netta seethed through her teeth as her body jerked from the impact of the vehicle behind her. She immediately looked in a rearview mirror to see who had rear-ended her truck. She spotted a tinted black Jimmy pulling over in the middle of the block, and seeing that the truck was pulling over as well, Netta hopped out her vehicle with license and registration in hand. She inspected her truck. The damage was minor, only her taillight was cracked. However, with her car being foreign, damage this small could still be expensive to fix.
Why hasn't he got out to look at what he's done to my truck?
Thought Netta as the sight of her truck began to infuriate her. Remembering Tone, she looked at her watch and began to walk swiftly toward the truck.
Must belong to a hustler, and if it does, that nigga might as well break me off right now or be ready for the police to take an accident report. I might have a lawsuit. I might need some medical attention.
Netta's mind couldn't help but to scheme on ways to get paid. Netta couldn't see through the heavily tinted windows of the Jimmy. All she could make out was that the driver was a male.
This nigga ain't that important,
she thought, wondering why he hadn't got out or even rolled down his window.
The average person would have apologized by now. I think since he's on some extra shit, I'ma get a police report, call my lawyer, and sue his fucking ass. Get the fuck out of the fucking car and roll down the fucking window. I'm in a rush, nigga,
she said, striking a defiant pose, hand on her hips, teeth clenched. Instantly, the driver's window began to descend slowly, revealing more and more of the dark figure inside the car. Netta's expression quickly changed. She almost began to pee on herself when she saw Black's face.
Oh shit, Black, when you get out,
she said out loud as she gawked him, paralyzed from fear. For an instant, there was nothing but an expressionless stare between the two of them. Netta was desperately trying to gauge his temperament.
Is he mad? Does he want his Range Rover back?
This was easier than Black thought it would be. He didn't have to kidnap her or tie her up or duct tape her. She got in the truck with him willingly.
Black, I swear on my mother's grave. Yo, it wasn't me who took the money. It was Stan. Stan said fuck you when I asked him for it. I tried to tell him, but...
Netta explained, talking so fast, Black could hardly keep up with her. Netta was seriously trying to pin that shit on somebody else. She swore on a stack of Bibles and lied on a dead man, using everything in her power to try and convince him of her innocence, but the guilty speak the loudest. Whether she knew it or not, Black already had his mind made up. So all that shit she was talking went in one ear and out the other. Absorbing every word of this one-sided conversation, Black didn't believe Netta for 1 minute, and what was really ticking him off was how she lied on Stan. Poor Stan wasn't even around to defend himself. He was murdered while Black was locked down. Never once did Black let his true feelings show. There would be plenty of time for him to vent his anger soon enough. For now, he was playing her game. This bitch done lost her mind. Time to pay the piper, bitch. Tone sat in Moe's on Albemarle Street, finishing the last of his crab cake dinner. He glanced down at the Cartier watch on his wrist. 9:30. Where's this broad at? Tone had given her the benefit of the doubt, but was now sure that Netta had stood him up. Who does she think she is? He thought to himself, getting heated. Tone had so many girls trying to get with him on the east side and west side that he didn't have to eat alone. That's it, I'm out, Tone thought as he stood from the table. Disappointed, he paid his bill and left the restaurant. One monkey don't stop no show, and Tone wasn't about to call it a night just 'cause Netta stood him up. His girl was studying for her final exams and didn't want to be bothered, and Mann was at the movies with some chick. What the hell? I'm downtown already. I might as well swing by Eldorado's. Tone wanted to unwind, and watching strippers dance was one of his many relaxing techniques. In the downtown hotel, Netta and Black were already engaging in sex. This was Black's first piece of pussy in 4 years, yet the way he was acting, one would have thought it was his last. "Come here," he growled as he drove his well-endowed manhood deeper into her. The powerful short strokes caused Netta to bang her head up against the headboard with each thrust. Pinching her nipples, Black watched as she grimaced in pain. Too scared to tell him to stop, Netta suffered in silence, growing tired of the missionary position he had her in. Finally, he flipped her over and penetrated her from the back, doggy style. Going through the motions, the multiple sexual positions, she felt nothing, no pleasure, just brute force. Too worried to enjoy it, Netta couldn't help but to think,
why did I come with him? Why did I get in his truck?
These were the questions that were going through her mind as he dug in and out of her. She was praying that he hurry up and come so this rough tirade could come to an end. But it would get worse before it got better. Having his way and humping away like a grazed dog in heat, Black smacked her ass cheeks so hard that each smack caused Netta to wince and sigh. This turned him on so much he purposely hit her harder. Suddenly, as if it were over, Black pulled his penis out of her vagina and, without warning, slammed it into her anus, causing Netta to fall flat on her stomach as she tried to get his dick out of her asshole.
Take it out! Take it out!
She screamed, her cries only exciting him even more. On top of her, applying his full body weight, he began to hump his body into hers. The pain and agony was too much for her as she screamed, trying to fight him off. It was no use. Black pinned her down and placed her in a chokehold. She was all his now. The pain was so excruciating, Netta felt like she would black out. The tears were a puddle under her face, and all she could feel was Black stretching her asshole wider and wider. He was enjoying himself so much that he had blocked out her cries and screams of agony. A foul stench began to pollute the air. Mercilessly, Black disregarded it and kept going. Never mind the foul odor or the blood that was ripping from her insides. This was payback. He wanted to demoralize her and humiliate her and teach her the lesson that for 4 years now she needed to learn. Eldorado's was packed, but Tom, being the regular he was, managed somehow to get a seat with a nice view of the stage. He sat nursing 2 overpriced bottles of Heineken, while his eyes searched the dimly lit club for a stripper named Peaches. Up on the stage, 2 strippers were doing their thing, jiggling, wiggling, shaking, and grinding what their mamas gave them. Tone watched as guys hooted and hollered and stuffed dollar bills in their G-strings. Hustlers from New York and Baltimore were in the house. Each clique was trying to outdo the next. Bottles of Cristal, Belvedere, and Chambord adorned the tables along with Dom and Alizé Red. For New York, the hot drink was Belvy mixed with Chambord. If you didn't have the Chambord, then it wasn't Belv. The Baltimore boys were rowdy, loud, and obnoxious. They wanted to show the New York boys whose house they were in and who was running the spot. Laid back in the cut, Tone peeped the whole scene, wanting no parts of it. He knew a few people in each group, and he also knew just how quick tempers could flare. Fun and games easily escalate to gunplay. Tone just wanted his dick sucked, and that was it. Speak of the devil, there was Peaches serving some gentleman customers a few yards away. "Hey, Peaches, come here, ma," said Tone, waving a $100 bill in his hand. Ben will get her attention, he thought, as he saw her spot the big face. She walked right over, wearing nothing but a G-string and high heels. Her big, firm, brown titties bounced with every step. She had the classic stripper look, caked on makeup, fake airbrush nails, long hair weave, and a tribal tattoo.
"Tone, what's up, yo? Where you been hiding?"
she asked happily, wanting to take the money out of his hand. "P, I've been up top for a minute. You know, I had to let my peeps know a nigga's alright," Tone replied, lying.
"Well, nigga, what's up? When me and you gonna get together again?"
she asked boldly, as if she were reading his mind. "Yo, ma, the way you look in them heels, we could leave the club right now," Tone anxiously responded. Peaches flicked out her tongue at him, exposing her new piercing, something she planned on using on him tonight.
"You know what time we close. Meet me out front and wait for me, yo,"
she said. "Okay, no problem," Tone answered.
"Wait a minute. You always switching cars. What you driving now? I know it's something different."
"I got a white BMW," Tone proudly stated.
"I hope it's a stick. You know how much I like sticks,"
she reminded him, blowing a kiss before turning to walk away. She knew Tone was money in the bank, and he always played fair. She'd go with that nigga wherever he wanted her to. Still violating Netta's rectum, Black pounded away till he was on the verge of exploding, then withdrew his feces-coated penis and came all over her butt and back. As quickly as she could, Netta made a mad dash for the bathroom. Barely walking straight, she had to shit so bad she felt like she wouldn't make it to the toilet. Slamming the door behind her, she barely reached the toilet in time. The shit hit the water like a ton of bricks. Relieving herself felt good, but it still didn't take away the pain and throbbing. She was raw and sore, very sore, and bleeding. Netta took a hot shower in an attempt to cleanse her body. She wanted a bath to soak in, but she'd have to wait for that until she got home. In the bathroom with the door locked, she felt safe, more like relieved. Black was out of order. He was on some other type of time. Netta was scared of him, scared to come out of the shower.
What am I gonna do?
She thought, thinking of how she'd exit the bathroom and leave him in the hotel room. Meanwhile, Black was in the room wiping the shit off his dick with her silk blouse. "Bitch, you ain't shit for real," he chuckled, really feeling himself. To him, Netta was nothing but a whore, and he was gonna treat her like one. When he finished disrespecting her clothes, Black started doubling up some wire hangers. He was about to bring the pain. Chapter 20. "Peaches, I wish you hurry the fuck up!" Tone impatiently shouted.
"Hold your fucking horses, yo! I'm coming!"
Tone laid in the bed, butt naked, puffing some Branson he'd copped the last time he was up in New York. The weed was making him horny. It seemed like it took forever for them to get to the hotel, and even longer for her to get her ass into bed. All he was thinking about was her pierced tongue and all the places Peaches will lick him with it. Peaches was all about her business, and she knew how to satisfy a man well. Like the entertainer she was, Peaches made a grand entrance. She stood in the frame of the bathroom door posing, wearing only her birthday suit and a pair of red leather thigh-high boots. She seductively strolled across the room and over to the bed. Still taking tokes on the blunt, Tone watched her move toward him in slow motion. Peaches came over and knelt down beside the bed, grabbing his manhood. She proceeded to give him a blowjob fit for a king. Tone's toes began to curl. Her pillowy soft lips and tongue stroked his dick up and down. The earring that was attached to her tongue felt strange but real good. Tone was loving every minute of it. He had totally forgot about Netta. This is what's up, he thought to himself. This is what I've been waiting for all night. As soon as Netta opened the bathroom door, she sensed something was very wrong. Darkness stared in front of her, and she could not see Black squatted against the wall waiting for her. Now, all she wanted to do was get her ass out of there. Now, all she wanted to do was get her clothes and leave, but it wasn't going to happen that way. Like a cat silently stalking a mouse, Black waited for Netta to get in striking distance. When she got close enough, he sprang from out of the darkness and cold-cocked her. Bam! The first blow from his fists caught her directly on the temple, taking the fight right out of her. Netta was on Queer Street, punch-drunk, and as she staggered across the room, trying to make it to the bed, Black rained down blows from every angle to every part of her body. Unable to maintain her balance, Netta fell to the floor. After rendering her helpless, Black walked over to the nightstand and grabbed his pimp sticks. Bitch, you ain't think you was ever gonna see the Black again, huh? Think you could steal from the Black and get the fuck away from me, huh? He barked at the fallen figure on the floor like a madman. While in jail, Black picked up a bad habit of talking to himself. He started referring to himself in third person. Ho, you crossed the Black, yo. Now you're gonna pay the cost to be the boss, bitch, he said, standing over her, pointing his instrument of pain. Groaning and groggy, Netta could barely make out what Black was saying. She struggled to get back on her feet by grabbing hold of the corner of the dresser, but she couldn't pull herself up. Each time she tried, she stumbled back to the floor. On her next attempt, Black reached his arm way back and brought the wire hangers down so hard that they whistled through the air. Her screams only excited Black. He continued to beat her until he drew blood, and like magic, long welt marks appeared across her face, neck, chest, back, thighs, buttocks, and legs. Next door, Peaches straddled Tone and began riding him like a wild bronco. Up and down, around and around, she moved her hips rapidly, whipping it on him. Then suddenly, she came to a grinding halt. She thought she heard a scream. There it was again. Now she was sure. Underneath her, Tone was puzzled by her lack of movement. He gently smacked Peaches on her big butt and began grinding her back in an attempt to remind her what they were doing and why they were there. Ayo, P, why you stop? Come on, baby. I was just about to bust a nut. What you doing? Peaches didn't even respond. Her full attention was focused on the wall in front of her and what was behind it in the next room.
Did you hear that?
She said, her eyebrows frowned, with her finger at her lips telling Tone to be quiet.
Somebody's getting the shit beat out of them next door.
No sooner than those words left her mouth, another ear-piercing scream penetrated through the walls. Peaches looked down at Tone.
I know you heard that, yo.
Jumping off of him, she ran naked around the bed and up to the wall to get a better listen. Mad as all hell, Tone reluctantly got out of the bed to join her. With their ears pressed to the wall, all they could hear was a muffled male voice cursing somebody out. Bits and pieces of what he was yelling could be heard.
Bitch! You sorry now! You sorry now, ain't you? You should have never crossed the block, bitch! You sorry now, ain't you, bitch? You sorry now! Well, don't be sorry now, motherfucker! Don't be sorry now!
You're taking this thing a little too far. Yo, Ma, what the fuck are you doing? Tone asked as he watched Peaches get a glass and put it up to the wall in order to hear better.
What the fuck do it look like I'm doing?
She asked sarcastically. It looks like to me you're being nosy, Tone replied. You supposed to be over here sucking my dick and fucking me. What the fuck do I even pay you for? You supposed to be paying me the attention, he said, mumbling to himself, not really meaning it, but still not understanding her. Unbeknownst to Tone, Peaches herself was a victim of domestic violence. A short time ago, Peaches was brutally beaten by her boyfriend on a regular basis, needing emergency room treatment. She remembered all the times people would just walk by as if nothing was happening to her. Peaches had promised herself, like every other woman of domestic violence, that if she ever saw anything like that happening to somebody else, she'd do what she could to stop it. Peaches, you need to mind your business. That's a man and a woman's business. They're not bothering you, Tone said, as Peaches rolled her eyes and ignored him. Continuing his torture, Black beat and stomped Netta till she lost consciousness. Now look what you made me do, he said. The entire time he was beating her, he was also scolding her. I bet you won't take nothing else from the Black, will you, bitch? He asked, waiting for an answer that would never come. Taking her silence as disrespect, Black repeatedly lashed her again and again and again for ignoring him. Oh, you got nothing to say? You want to play sleep, huh? Don't you? Well, the Black got something that'll wake your ass right up. He threw down his bloody weapon and unzipped his pants. Pulling out his penis, he urinated on her head, further degrading her. Even after that, he wasn't finished. He continued to methodically beat and taunt her mercilessly until he heard someone banging on the next wall. Yo, Peaches, calm the fuck down, Tone said after watching her beat on the wall. Peaches stopped and quickly began to put on her clothes. Where the fuck are you going? Asked Tone.
Next door?
She said with defiance. Unfucking believable. This just ain't my night. I came here to get my shit off, and now we playing Save the Day. Man, I'm not getting in the middle of no boyfriend-girlfriend disputes. The peacemaker always gets hurt. Yo, I'm not risking my life for somebody I don't even know, he said, trying to convince her with logical reasoning.
Aw, nigga, you just scared,
Peaches said, challenging his manhood. Just to prove her wrong, Tone rushed and got dressed, following her out the door. The thumps on the wall had brought Black back to his senses. Paranoid that someone might have called the police, he grabbed his things and hastily left. He'd finish her off some other time, but right now he had to go. With Peaches leading the way, they went next door, narrowly missing Black fleeing the scene of the crime. Noticing the door was ajar, Tone pulled Peaches back and he stepped forward, taking charge of the situation. He knocked on the door firmly and waited for a response from inside. When none came, he knocked again. This time the force of his knock pushed the door open wider, and there in the middle of the floor was a body. An unrecognizable, nude, Black female lay sprawled out in the puddle of blood and urine. Her long hair covered her crimson face. Standing behind Tone, Peaches peeked around him, looking and searching the room as her eyes found the body. Hollering and screaming, she began to cry and ran back into their room to call 911. Cautiously, Tone walked toward the body. His eyes darted back and forth, alert for any signs of danger. Finding none, he bent down and checked the woman's wrist for vital signs. He found a weak pulse. He put his hand near her mouth. Good. She's still breathing, he thought. He pulled out his cell phone and called 911. The smell and odor from the room was putrid. Tone could barely stand it. He felt like he was about to throw up. Her shirt, her body, the blood, the urine, all made his stomach sick. While his eyes scoured the room, he saw a purse on the night table. Curiosity and identity led him to the table. With the condition she was in, he wanted to notify her family of what had happened. Digging around in her purse, Tone came across a wallet. He pulled it out and turned on the lamp to get a good look at the driver's license. Shanetta Jackson. His mouth dropped as he looked at the DMV photo. Oh shit, this is Netta. A strange twist of fate had brought them together. They were destined to be together this night after all. Tone had no idea in this capacity. With Netta fighting for her life, Tone never left her side. He accompanied her to the hospital, inside the ambulance holding her hand the entire time. It was Tone that notified the pussy pound of the brutal assault. Like a concerned lover, Tone waited around with Mimi, Rashida, Fila, and Petey while Netta underwent emergency surgery to stop the internal bleeding. It was Tone who the doctor told the extent of her injuries to.
The operation we performed was successful. We were able to stop the hemorrhaging, which is good news. The bad news is she's not regained consciousness and she went into shock, but her vitals are rapidly improving. I believe she will make it. She's a strong young lady.
They all collectively breathed a sigh of relief as they huddled around the doctor. Their prayers had been answered.
Now let me ask you a question. Who in the hell did that to her, and why?
Asked the doctor, ready to help aid the police in any way possible. That question weighed heavily on everybody's mind. Who could have done this, and why? The only person that could tell them was Netta. Chapter 21. The sanitized smell of hospitals always made Tone a little nauseous. It reminded him of his short stay in the hospital as a kid when a car hit him. However, every day like clockwork, Tone stopped by Maryland General Hospital to check on Netta. She still hadn't gained consciousness and was confined to the intensive care unit. Besides him, Tina was the most consistent visitor. Often, they'd run into each other and he'd stop and chat, then go about their business. Since the first night Netta arrived at the hospital, Mimi hadn't been back. The rest of the pound only dropped by once in a while. They were too busy doing their thing, and them niggas, Tone looked down on them for that. They wasn't keeping it real with Netta. When he learned about Netta's tragic family situation from Tina, her dead mother, and unknown father, he was determined to be there for her as much as he could. Nobody should be left alone like this. His thoughts were just as true as his intentions. Over the course of the next 3 weeks, Netta's condition steadily progressed. She went from critical condition to serious condition until one day she opened her eyes. Dazed, she came to, even though she was disoriented. For a minute, she thought she was dead. She didn't know where she was. It was so quiet except for the steady hiss of the respirator and other life support machines. She touched cold steel guardrails, still not realizing where she was. She squinted her eyes, trying to adjust her pupils to the bright lights. She looked around, seeing fellow patients lined up in beds to the left and right of her. Then, and only then, did she realize she was in the hospital. Every inch of her body ached. Her head was wrapped in white gauze like a mummy. She had intravenous tubes running into her arm, and when she tried to call for help, her voice sounded dead in her throat. Her vocal cords were weak from lack of use. She noticed a buzzer by her right side. She grabbed it and pushed a button, activating a light outside her room. Netta vaguely remembered Black, the rape, and the beating. She was so confused and in need of some answers. Nurse Mcneal was a big-boned black woman with a large bosom. She was assigned to the ICU, and it was her who responded to Netta's call. At first, she assumed that this was some family member requesting her presence. Entering the room, Nurse Mcneal was shocked to see Netta wide-eyed and conscious. A spiritual woman, she took this miraculous recovery as a sign from God.
Sweet Jesus, praise the Lord,
she joyfully said, making the sign of the cross with her hand over her chest.
How did I get here? How long have I been here? Who brought me here? What's wrong with me?
Netta had 101 questions to ask Nurse Mcneal. Answering as best she could, Nurse Mcneal gently spoke to her like she was family. She told Netta she had been raped and beaten within inches of death. Over the last few weeks, it was Nurse Mcneal who had become emotionally attached to Netta, tending to her personal needs. She had done everything for Netta, and for Nurse Mcneal, it was more than a job or a paycheck. It was her reason for living. Nothing in life gave her more satisfaction than helping another human being.
But how? How? Who brought me here?
By now, Nurse Mcneal was sitting on Netta's bed, looking her directly in the eye.
Calm down, child. I told you all that I know,
she said, gently touching her hand.
Lay back and take it easy. I'll go get the doctor for you. He'll be able to tell you anything else you want to know.
Before Nurse Mcneal could get out the door, Netta asked her one more question.
Who left me all those balloons and roses? Your boyfriend. He comes by here to sit with you every day. My boyfriend? I ain't got no man,
she thought to herself.
You got a good man there. He must love you an awful lot. He's got a little accent. Sounds like he's from New York. So it was Tone. It had to be. She didn't know any other New Yorkers. But how did he find me?
Netta wondered. Making his rounds as usual, dropping off drugs and picking up money, Tone's last stop was the hospital. Armed with a dozen red roses as usual, he came strolling into Netta's room, and boy was he surprised to find her awake and functioning. Oh snap! Yo! When you come out of the coma? He couldn't believe his eyes. He had become so used to seeing Netta incapacitated and heavily medicated.
Dag, don't I get a hello?
She said, giving him her brightest smile, trying her best to look pretty even though she felt ugly. Not even looking in a mirror, she was self-conscious of her appearance. She could feel the cuts and bruises on her lips and head. Yo, sleepyhead, what's up? For the first time in weeks, Netta laughed, and it hurt like hell. Her ribs were fractured, and she didn't even know it. Seeing her wince from the pain, Tone rushed to her side. Yo, you alright? You want me to get a doctor? He asked.
I'm okay. My side hurts,
she said, shaking her head no. Tone sat down in the chair next to her bed. He stared in her face. Damn, she still looked good. Even though dude did a number on her, he thought to himself.
The doctor told me that if you had gotten me here a minute later, I might be dead. Thank you,
she said, feeling like a little kid. Yo, don't give me that charge. I ain't no hero. The doctors are the ones you should be thanking.
Whatever, Clark Kent. I'm still thankful for everything you did.
You're welcome, he said.
Tone, tell me something. How did you find me to bring me here?
This was the million-dollar question that Netta needed the answer to. Everything else added up except the role he played. Well, I waited at the restaurant for you over an hour. When you didn't show, Tone went on to recount every last detail that led to their paths crossing that dreadful night. From the strip joint to Peaches and the hotel, to hearing the screams and him and Peaches discovering her bloody body. Tone told her the entire story, overlooking nothing. For the first time in his life, he came clean to a female. Yes, he was in the next room fucking Peaches, and he let her know that. Why shouldn't he? She was in the next room, right? Everything he was saying made her stomach shrink and her breath a little short. She hoped he couldn't see it from the look on her face. Netta had been hoping, more like praying, that he hadn't found her. She could only imagine how she looked. It was then that Netta realized what an angel he was. The average man wouldn't have helped. The average man wouldn't be sitting there right now. Tone, however, had some questions of his own that he wanted some answers to, but he kept them to himself. He figured in time he'd know, and he didn't want to upset her or pressure her, so he changed the subject. Yo, you know Mimi is messing with my cousin Mann, right? I bumped into Petey, Fila, and Rashida once or twice coming to visit you, but I don't think Mimi's been back since the night we brought you here. I thought she was your girl.
She's only been back to check on me once?
Netta felt kind of funny that Mimi wasn't there by her side. For sure, Mimi should be seated where Tone was right now. But where was Mimi when she needed her? Netta was always there for Mimi in her times of need. She desperately tried to push the bad thoughts of Mimi out of her mind. But something had to be going on with her. Besides, what could be more important than this? Chapter 22.
Die, you bitch-ass nigga, die!
Netta screamed as she plunged the large hunting knife into Black's chest over and over and over again.
What goes around, comes around, motherfucker!
Popping out of her sleep, she realized she was dreaming again. She looked up at the hospital ceiling. Black was nowhere in the room, only in her dream. This was the same recurring dream she'd been having for the past few nights.
What's the matter, Netta? You had another bad dream about that bad boy?
Asked Nurse Mcneal, rushing to her side.
Damn, she must have heard me again talking in my sleep. Yeah,
Netta admitted, a little embarrassed.
I know what that boy did to you was wrong. He hurt you real bad, baby, I know, but you got to let it go. It's human nature to seek revenge. Just remember the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. The Bible says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Everything has its time, and right now, it's time for you to heal. Not only your body, but also your mind. Live and let live. God will handle this for you if you put it in His hands, I promise you. God will punish him. Don't you even worry about it,
said Nurse Mcneal, feeling Netta's pulse while she fed Netta some of her Christian doctrines.
But Nurse Mcneal, he tried to kill me. How am I wrong for wanting revenge?
Said Netta, her street mentality alive and well. She lived by the code of the streets, an eye for an eye. See, old habits die hard.
Child, you youngins are so violent these days. Y'all only have faith in what you can't see. God will punish that boy on the day of judgment for the sin he's committed against you. God is the judge of all judges. Remember, Jesus turned the other cheek. Let him be your example, because if you fight fire with fire, you only create a big blaze and everybody will get burned. Everything bad that happens, something good must come out of it. You got to turn a negative into a positive. What good could possibly come from this?
By far, this was the worst situation that life had ever placed her in. Up until now, no matter how life had tossed her, she always managed to land on her feet like a cat with 9 lives. With the help of modern medicine, her injuries would eventually heal. Her psychological well-being was what was at stake. It was up to Netta to cure what ailed her mentally, but she was bent on revenge. For weeks she was recovering. Netta retraced the steps of her life, her struggles, and successes. Even though she grew up with less than most, Netta still felt blessed to be alive, to have survived. Netta's first step to getting her act together was to let it go, like Nurse Mcneal said. All the hatred she had in her heart for Black was consuming her. Netta forgave, but she didn't forget. In order to move on, Netta knew it was time for a change. Time for her to make some decisions in order to take her life in a different direction. She had to break away from the streets, the street life, and the life she was so familiar with. She'd have to break away from the game. For the first time in her life, Netta decided to make a conscious effort to do the right thing. But she feared change. She didn't know how to go about changing herself. Change represented, and the unknown was out of her realm of thought. But she knew there was nothing right about her life. It certainly wasn't right the way she used her body to get in a man's pockets either. She didn't even know their last names. Just that they had a couple of dollars. There was nothing right about being a thief or a whore, and Netta didn't want to be neither of those things anymore. The reality of being thrown in this world with nothing, to have to steal and trick niggas for a living, then be violated the way Black had violated her, was nothing but a mental struggle for Netta's mind. She wanted to change from everything she once was. If she could have a new face, a new name, and move herself to a place where no one knew her, she could change. She could at least hold her head up, but that was only wishful thinking. The truth was, Netta couldn't get a new face and a new name, and she didn't have a new town to move to. She had to face B-more, her past, what she was, and who she wanted to be. She had to face it all. But there was one thing she could change. Netta had Nurse Mcneal's granddaughter cut, style, and dye her hair. She did this in her hospital bed, deciding she needed a new look to go along with the new person she was going to be when she was released from the hospital.
Tone, I want to show you something,
Netta said innocently that evening he was visiting. What? He said with a curious smile on his face.
Promise you won't laugh.
Yo, I promise. Now show me, Tone said.
Remember, you promised you wouldn't laugh,
Netta reminded him as she reached her hands in the back of her head and untied the scarf that covered her new hairdo.
Surprise!
She yelled as she snatched off the scarf, revealing her new short curly blonde hairstyle.
You like?
She asked, really needing his approval. I like that. It's definitely you. Now, what you got to show me? Want me to close the curtains so we could get down to the nitty-gritty?
Stop playing around, stupid. I'm serious, yo. I need you to do me a big favor.
What is it now? He asked sarcastically.
I need you to get a real estate agent and sell my house for me. I need you to put my furniture in storage, and I need you to sell my truck.
Why? I thought you loved living in the hood.
I do love my hood, but that ain't the point. Point is, I need to get away from that hood. I need to see life outside the hood. I know this might sound crazy, but all I've ever known is the streets and the game. That shit ain't for me anymore, Tone. You might think that I'm running away from my past, but I'm not. I just want to put a little distance between me now and me back then. This shit has done something to me. I'm a changed person. I'm a different person, and I want everything I do to reflect that change.
I feel you, but I still think you're running away from something. You can't run from your past. It's who you are. Someday, you'll have to face it, and it's better to deal with it now than later. You can run, but you can't hide. Tone was hinting at her drama with that guy who had messed her up. Netta still hadn't told him that guy was black, and he had no idea how prophetic his words would be later on down the line. The doctors were amazed at Netta's speedy recovery and healing powers. The scars and bruises were slowly vanishing from her face and body. With the help of cocoa butter, the wounds would disappear in time. They gave her a clean bill of health and discharged her from the hospital. Before leaving, Netta made her rounds, saying her goodbyes to all the doctors and nurses who helped get her well. She had a particularly long and complicated goodbye with Nurse Mcneal. Nurse Mcneal had treated Netta like family, like one of her own.
You take my number and you call me, day or night. If you need anything, you call me.
It was time to leave, time to get on with life. She'd come full circle from not knowing what the future held for her to setting goals and planning the rest of her life. The material things she once cherished and damn near died for no longer meant anything. Those things had no value the way they used to. Netta had dreams that she wanted to pursue. She no longer wanted to use her looks or her body. Netta now knew from her long conversations with Nurse Mcneal that the physical does indeed fade. Youth and beauty would go into decline long before her mind would. Of course, Tone was there to pick her up when she got released from the hospital. It was an occasion to celebrate. Tone took her to a new condo located just outside the city limits in one of the surrounding counties. Netta's new condo was fully financed by the sale of her row home and Range Rover. Almost everything from her former lifestyle had been sold. The cursed possessions helped comfort a new home. She replaced everything conservatively, and what was left over she put in the bank. After Tone helped Netta settle in her new home, he became a permanent fixture. When he wasn't taking care of business, he was spending every possible moment with her. He took her to register for the fall semester at Catonsville Community College. He held her hand as she walked through the door, telling her she could do it and truly believing she could pass any class they had. Then one day, out of the blue, it happened while they were watching a rented video. They kissed, and before either one realized it, they were making love. Months of pinned up and raw emotions were released.
I love you,
Netta whispered, snuggled in Tone's arms, and for the first time in her life, she meant it. This wasn't a game she was running to get in his pockets. These were her true feelings. How couldn't she love him? He was her hero. He saved her life, and not a day after that had he left her side. He never once questioned her about what had happened. Tone was the only man for her, and she loved him with all her heart. Yo, have you ever been in love with two females at the same time? Tone hypothetically asked his cousin Mann. He turned to him, seeking a sympathetic ear to his current dilemma. But instead, what he got was a voice of reason. Nah, dog, what are you talking about? Mann inquired. I'm saying, son, you ever been in love with one chick, but just love another one too, while you were still in love with the first chick? Asked Tone, explaining the situation as best he could without dropping names. Mann was driving down the street. He turned his head and looked at his cousin. Oh, shit! Nigga, you done fucked up now! What you gonna tell Sonja? You ain't feeling her no more? See, this was the very reason why Tone stopped seeking Mann's advice. He knew Mann would speak his mind regardless, whether he liked it or not. Yo, it's not like that. Calm down. You jumping the gun. I love Sonja and all, but I can't lie. I'm in love with Netta, Tone said sincerely. It's just me and her is more compatible than me and Sonja. Netta understands the game, and Sonja claims she understands the game, but she really don't because when it comes time for her to demonstrate her understanding, she can't. She's too busy nagging me about where I'm at, where I'm going, who I'm with, what time I'll be home. It's a motherfucking headache and a bunch of silly, stupid shit. I can't make moves without hearing her fucking mouth. Mann replied. That shit sound good, but you still dead wrong. It ever dawned on you that she really cares about your monkey ass? Nigga, I think you just pussy whipped. Netta got you open. Pussy whipped, huh? Never that. I get too much pussy for that. Well, if it ain't that, then what is it? I'm saying, you been with Sonja forever. I thought y'all was getting married and shit. Yo, things change and people change. I can't explain how this shit happened, but I can tell you this. It's not about no pussy. It's about compatibility. Me and Netta just vibe better. Oh, so you ain't even hit it yet? Asked Mann, being sarcastic. I ain't say all that, did I? I ain't gonna lie on my dick neither. But I've been feeling honey way before anything ever jumped off. So something was there from the start. It ain't a sex thing. Whatever, I spoke my piece. You gonna do what you want anyway. But two things for certain and one for sure. Sonja is gonna bog the fuck out when you tell her this. I wouldn't want to be you. And what about that kid that hurt honey? Suppose homeboy come back with some more drama. If that's gonna be your wifey, you gotta hold her down and protect her. Yo, sis might be more trouble than she worth. Think about it. In my opinion, you're making a bad move. It's bad money. How you gonna throw away a sure shot thing for the unknown? Netta could be faking the funk, Frontin' for all you know, but you need to be a man about this shit and tell Sonja what the fuck is going on as soon as you figure this shit out, and the sooner the better. Tone, you owe her that much, said Mann in Sonja's defense. Sonja had been around for 6 years now. 6 years and nothing was wrong. If Tone wanted to throw away 6 years, then let him. Mann just didn't understand why. Yeah, you right. I do owe her that, Tone sighed, thinking of having to tell her the truth. Taking Mann's advice, he went home immediately to break the news to Sonja and let the chips fall where they may. When he entered a 2-bedroom apartment in Northeast Baltimore, she was on him.
Motherfucker, we need to talk. Where the fuck you been? I ain't seen your ass in days,
she said as Tone breezed right by her and headed for the bedroom with her right behind him. What we got to talk about? Tone asked as he flopped down on the bed.
About you and me, about us,
she said, standing over top of him, pointing her finger as Tone stared blankly back at her and swallowed hard.
You don't love me like you used to.
The statement hung in the air, and Tone wondered, was it that obvious? Though Sonja was busy focusing on school, she wasn't stupid. She knew Tone was cheating. He was telling on himself by his actions. They weren't having sex, and Tone was a sex fiend, so she knew he had to be getting it from somewhere else. While Sonja was laying the foundation for their future, Tone was busy fucking it up. Why you say that? He asked calmly.
What? Why I say what? I'll tell you why I say that. Because your ass is hardly ever here. You never come home at night anymore. When you do come home, it's daytime, and all you do is sleep the day away anyway. Then you roll out. What type of shit is that? You ain't hustling on the block anymore. You got plenty of workers. So what the fuck is keeping you on the streets like that, Tone? For the past few months, it's been getting worse. Once upon a time, you couldn't keep your hands off me. We used to fuck 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. Now, it ain't even 3 or 4 times a week. Tone, I'm not stupid. Yo, I know you fucking. As much as you love pussy, you got to be. You probably fucking one of those nasty-ass strippers from the Club Eldorados whose matchbooks I keep finding in your pockets.
Tone laid back and didn't say a word. He let her get all the frustration off her chest. He hoped that she'd give him a way out. He didn't have the heart to hurt her. Breaking up was a little more difficult than he imagined.
Tone, you supposed to be my man, but you out here sticking dick in all these other bitches while I'm in school busting my ass. This shit got to stop, Tone. Tone, you try to be too many things. You can't play every angle. You can't be a baller, a player, a hustler, and a thug. You just can't. Not if you're my man.
Tone was in a jam. He was torn between what was good for him and what he thought was good for him. Sonja or Netta, A or B. Choose. He felt like he'd lose out on something either way he went. Neither possessed the same qualities, but they both had certain intangibles that he had loved.
Nigga, don't just lay there looking stupid. Say something,
she demanded. I need some time alone. I'm tired of being nagged every day. Maybe we need a break from each other.
What the fuck you mean you need some time alone? What you're trying to really say is you want to spend some more time with them other bitches. Stop being a coward, Tone, and come out and say it, nigga.
She spat. Whatever, man. I'm not going to argue with you, Tone said as he got off the bed and began to gather up some of his things. He was taking the easy way out. He was going out like a sucker. Sonja stood directly in back of him. Her hard stare could have burned a hole in the back of his head.
Tone, if you leave out that door, it's over. Don't come the fuck back, I'm serious.
Her words had no effect on him. Tone continued to stuff his clothes into a duffel bag.
Nigga, you making a big mistake. Go on, move right in with that bitch. You're going out for hamburger when you got steak at home, motherfucker. What that bitch got that I ain't got? What, she sucking your dick or blowing bubbles up your ass?
See what the fuck I'm saying? It never stops. I come home from the streets to deal with this shit. Nah. We can't even talk anymore, Tone silently snapped as he headed for the door.
So what? It's over. That's it. After all this time, motherfucker, you're gonna cheat on me and it's just over? Motherfucker, get the fuck out, cause I'm not kissing your ass. After everything I've done for you, we came down here together, Tone, me and you, and we were supposed to stay together,
she said, with tears flowing down her cheeks as she turned her back to him. He stopped for a moment, thinking as the door stared him in the face. Maybe had she ran over to him, begged him, promised not to nag him, and promised to let him do what he wanted to do with whoever he wanted, then maybe he would have dropped his bags. But she didn't run over, and she didn't beg him, and she had only 2 seconds. Instead, she turned her back. Tone slammed the door, walking out on the best thing that ever happened to him. Yo! Folks, I hate to do this, but this is where I have to pause for the cause, just because I need you to tune in to the last episode of this miniseries on Ralph Reads. I would like, or rather love, to thank you, queens and kings, fellow royalty, for stopping by. You may connect with me via Facebook. Send a friend request to Ralph Anthony Garcia on Twitter and Instagram at RGMC2407. Send an email to RGMC2407@gmail.com, where if you would like to leave a small donation, please use the Zelle app or PayPal.me/RGMC2407 or Cash App. My cash tag is RGMC2407. You may also connect with me on my other channel, RGMC Ralph Garcia, Master of Ceremonies, and right here on TURN, tell a friend to tell a friend to tune in to the United Ronin Networks. We are Ronin. Fellow royalty, pick up a good book, read a good story, and set your good self free. I appreciate you, and I love you like cooked food. I will see you folks for the next edition of Ralph Reads. Please stay tuned for the next episode. I guarantee it's gonna be some hot shit.